I completely understand why people are telling others, don't waste your breath on somebody who's going to misunderstand you anyway. If somebody has a perception in their head and they're only going to see it a certain way, really the truth is no matter what you say, that's not going to change how they feel until they are ready to see things differently. However, things that we say to each other are seeds. They can be seeds for good, they can be seeds for bad. Um, but what we say to each other is not necessarily processed in the moment. Most of the time, a majority of the time, things that are said to you are processed later. So when you are feeling the need to tell somebody your side that isn't going to hear you anyway, sometimes that is necessary because while they're not going to take it then and it's not going to change the circumstances, it's information that they do need to know for them to be able to overcome obstacles and challenges within their own life. So, like, for example, when a person is blinded because they're like in a dark hole, they don't trust people anymore, and they're with that person who's genuine and giving to them, but they don't see it that way. They think it's control or manipulation or the things that they're used to. That's what they're trying to see these things through. It's very important for that person to explain their intentions and thoughts and whatnot. No, because it's not changing the moment right there. But yes, it's important because when that person realizes, and yeah, it's usually when the person that's good hearted leaves that they finally really get to sit down and process that whole relationship and look back at everything and see it for really what it is. And it's really important that they know true intentions there, because if all they have is the negativity that you said when you were angry, it's hard to process and interpret that whole situation properly when your actions were all good, but your words were all negative, or vice versa. If your words were all good and your actions were all negative, that's very hard for a human to process and understand because there's such a vast confusion between your words and your actions. And there's that filter of their perception to try to muddy the waters of what was real there. And that's where people kind of tend to stay really long in those mental confusion trying to understand, because that disconnect makes it a lot harder. So if somebody is good and they act good, they're good. If they're bad and they act bad, they're bad. But when one is good and one is not, then it's, who are they really? What's truly happening there? Were they manipulative? What really was their intentions and things like that? Because it's not going to be easy for a person to go, oh, well, they were a really good person, but my actions overwhelmed them, so they were saying mean things because everybody has to lash out. That's not things that are going to be easy for a person to process. And the same as a person who did all of the bad actions but was always just saying the right things, it's not going to be easy for the person on the other side to process and go, oh, you were just really fucking scared and terrified. So you were constantly trying to push and test to make sure that I was actually real with what I was presenting, especially if you're in a relationship where those two dynamics are playing on each other, and then you don't have either side telling true feelings. Then that muddied water usually ends up those long term where you see people and you're like, oh, I can see they still care about each other, but they won't go to each other because it's such a confusing mental fuckage for the brain, that the brain's even like, even if it was like, damn, that was like a lot of hard processing, and I don't know if I can endure that again. So, yeah, hope these thoughts and stuff help somebody.